Yeah, I think so.
How did you prepare for that?
You know, worked on my endurance, worked on my wrestling, worked on my jiu-jitsu. I feel like I'm ready to go.
You wait so long for this fight. How do you feel right now?
I feel great. I'm very excited to get in there. Fighting Georges St-Pierre and unifying this belt has been a goal of mine for a while, and now I'm right on the verge of getting in there and doing it, and yeah, it's very exciting.
You seem so calm. Is it inside, or you're just the kind of guy who's always so relaxed?
No, I mean it comes and it goes. I get butterflies, of course, like anybody else, but for the most part, I'm pretty calm. I'm very confident in my preparation, so I think that's why I'm able to just be pretty cool.
Carlos, do you feel different before this fight than before the Diaz fight? That fight, I would imagine, gave you a lot of confidence.
Yeah, I do. I've had close to 9 months or almost even a year training for Georges St-Pierre, so I think it's more the preparation and my confidence in my training camp than anything that makes me feel different.
Can you comment about the growth of the division, whereas, when you were in the WC, maybe there weren't as many good contenders in the UFC, but now it seems like this division is really stacked with yourself and other people around.
Oh yes. Well, as the sport grows and more guys get into it, we're seeing great fighters coming into all the divisions. Divisions get stagnant for a short time, and then bam, all of a sudden you have a whole group of new contenders, and you see that with a lot of the divisions, and including the welterweight.
Do you think that you guys have closed the gap on GSP then over the last, say, 2 years?
Well, George kind of cleaned out the division of all the contenders, and while he was doing that, there were some other guys that were coming up, getting ready to take their place.
Carlos, talk about the fact that Greg Jackson has stepped away from your camp, from George's camp, and whether that was weird for you to not train with him.
Yeah, it was definitely a little bit of an adjustment. Greg is very close to both George and myself. I think it would have been an unfair advantage for him to work with either of us because he knows us so intimately. I think he did the right thing.
Did you find it difficult not to ask Greg about pointers, to kind of keep that confidentiality?
No, I didn't. That would be putting him in a weird situation, and I didn't even want to go there.
Carlos, this is the second time you've had the whole primetime coverage as well. At the beginning of filming, you kind of set ground rules in terms of, just to maintain your own standing, having these cameras on you constantly. Is that a bit of an added pressure when you have all of that to worry about on top of getting set the last couple of weeks?
It definitely adds some more stress to the whole situation. They're pretty good about maintaining boundaries and not pushing too far. They know that I'm busy. I got a lot of stuff going on. They're not trying to add any more stress. And first time around, it was definitely took some getting used to, and the second time it was a lot easier.
Carlos, this isn't the first belt you've held. Can I ask where you keep your belts? Is it the gym or?
I just moved, so actually they're in a box in my new house.
Carlos, when you look at what GSP has faced in the past, a lot of wrestlers, a lot of grapplers, but the strikers he's fought, they really fight him kind of tentatively. They look for that takedown. You're a very aggressive striker. Do you believe your style is kind of the anti-GSP?
Well, I hope so, and we're going to find out Saturday night. I feel like I just have the ability to threaten with finishes from any position, whether we're standing, whether the fight's on the ground. I try to finish from my back if I get put there, which I think is a big difference from some of the contenders he's fought in the past.
He said that he's more opportunistic in this fight. He wants to finish, but everyone kind of comes in knowing that he's probably going to look for the takedown. Do you think he'll try to stand with you?
Well, what George does really well is, he does have very good stand-up, and he gets you thinking, hey, we're having a stand-up battle, and then as soon as you kind of switch out of takedown defense mode, bam, he's in on your legs and he takes you down. He mixes it up very well, and his timing is great, so, I have to be wary of that.
He wasn't very happy with his performance against Shields last time out. What did you think of George's performance that night?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think it was a little bit lackluster. I think he dropped him in the third or the fourth with a head kick, and didn't really jump in there to follow up. And Jake Shields is very tough on the ground. Very dangerous. He can finish you at the drop of a hat. So I think that was part of George's concern, maybe why he wasn't as aggressive as he could have been.
How much of a challenge is facing in his own town?
I don't think so. You know, ultimately it's George and myself in the cage. You know, his fans, his hometown doesn't get to go in there with him. You know, whether the fans are cheering for me or booing me, you know, it's energy either way, and I feed off that.
Carlos, he is coming off a long layoff due to a knee injury. Are you going to test his cardio and his knee?
I'm going to try to test. I'm going to test him. You know, on all aspects, on all fronts. You know, I'm not gonna do anything more or less than I would have done had he been, you know, healthy for the last, you know, 9-10 months. So it's not gonna be a big difference. I'm gonna take the fight to him. You know, try to see whatever opportunity I can to finish the fight.
Do you hear the fans? I mean, you kind of touched on it there, that it's just a lot of energy. Cheers or boos? You know, do you really hear them when you are heading to the cage or in there in the middle of the fight?
Not so much on the way out to the cage, but definitely while you're in the fight. Sometimes there's maybe a lull in the action or something, and yeah, you can hear them a little bit, but even louder in my ears is my coaches. You know, and you know, basically, I really have to stay focused on the guys trying to, you know, beat me up, take my head off. So I can't let that throw me. Really.
Is Greg coming to the fight?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, not even just.
Did you watch the primetime special?
I watched the first one. I didn't get a chance to watch the second.
Anything that didn't make it into the show that you thought might be, you know, that might make it?
No, not really. You know, it's a half-hour show. You know, with commercials, that's, you know, I don't know, maybe like 8 minutes a fighter. I really like the fact that they highlighted the coaches. Mike Winklejohn is a big part of my team, and you know, kind of gets overlooked. And you know, the fact that they kind of showed his background, showed what an influential member of my team he is, was awesome.
Do you think he's been a bigger influence than Greg?
No, I would say it's equal.
You started with Tom, right? And then you went to Greg. And
I started with Tom Vaughn, who was one of Greg Jackson's affiliates a long time ago. And I was, at one point, I was training with Greg Jackson and Tom Vaughn and Chris Latrell. Everybody kind of has a big happy family, and then, you know, the politics of things, you know, people split ways, and you know, so I've trained with, you know, various members of that original team over the years.
Carlos, you beat a Canadian for your WEC title too, didn't you?
I did, yeah, John Alessio.
Carlos, you
talked about your aggressiveness from the bottom position if George does take you down. With the way he dominates positional, controlling a lot of guys, and the ground and pound that he uses, do you see holes the way he fights from the top that he's capable of being exploited?
Yeah, I do. I mean, he's very hard to deal with. Yeah, he's got really good grappling, great ground and pound, and his pace is relentless. So that's very hard to deal with. But I think sometimes technique goes by the wayside because he's pushing the pace so hard.
Carlos, I know you respect George a lot, but is there a moment maybe when the cage door closes that the respect stops and the attack, so to speak, begins? Because I think that's been a big part of George's mystique, is that people kind of respect him so much, they go in there with a different mindset.
Yeah. I admire George as a fighter. You know, he's a great guy, but you know, this is business. You know, when that cage door closes, he's going to come. He's going to try to knock me out. He's going to try to finish me, and so I got to do the same. I got to be prepared for that. All niceties aside, you know, we're enemies at this point.
Even though you trained with Mike Winklejohn before, was there any sort of adjustment period with him having run the camp this time?
Yeah, a little bit. You know, I had to bring in 2 or 3 people to take the place of Greg Jackson because he's got such a wealth of knowledge. You know, so yeah, it was an adjustment, but you know, there's always going to be variables in any fight camp, and you know, this was just happened to be the case this time.
Can you talk about your relationship with George before you knew you were going to fight him? Were you guys friends? Did you guys talk?
No, we weren't friends. You know, we talked on a couple occasions. You know, we're cordial with each other. But yeah, no, I wouldn't say we were friends. No.
Who did you bring in for your jiu-jitsu? It was mentioned on the primetime show. You brought in a world jiu-jitsu champion.
The guy who's been helping me out with my jiu-jitsu in this camp is a guy named Caio Terra, who's a 5-time no-gi world champion. Just one of the best jiu-jitsu guys in the world.
How many times did he make you feel a little foolish?
first time I grappled with him, I felt like it was my first day at the gym, man.
That good, huh?
Honestly, man, he's amazing. He's a small guy, and yeah, he's incredible.
Martin Kampmann said that in this fight, he says he can see George quitting if you hit him. He cannot see you quitting. What do you think when you hear a fellow welterweight say that about, and do you agree with him at all in the spirit of what George brings into the fight?
I've been in there with Martin. He knows that, that I'm a tough, resilient fighter, as is he. I think we both have that same quality. People have questioned George's heart before and his mental toughness. I honestly, from what I've seen, I don't think that's the case. I think he's a warrior through and through. And I think he's going to be there as long as he's standing, as long as until the ref pulls me off him, he's going to be there.
Who do you have in Kampmann versus Henderson?
Both guys are great fighters. It's going to be a great matchup to watch, I think. But Kampmann, I think, has more experience, and he has more depth in his style and his skills. So I think Kampmann.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Carlos.